Today we're going to walk through how I built this beat for my friend Shama and Dave for their song Follow. Check it out.
I run to your love, I'll follow, follow you. Lord Jesus, I will try to follow.
So this beat came about from a production session I had where I was just kind of making beats back to back to back and kind of going through a bunch of different genres, trying to make as much as I could. I knew I had a session coming up with my friends Dave and Shama, and I wanted to make sure I had a lot of options for them to pick through. And when we got around through listening to all the beats, they really resonated with this one. What's really cool is that Shama is doing about over 50K monthly listeners on Spotify right now. So we had a really good feeling about trying to do something new with his music. He normally makes a lot of high energy hip hop. A lot of it's comedic based, but with this one, we wanted to try to do something different for him. And Dave was gonna help me make a song for Shama that was a little more in the vein of your boom bap hip hop instead of a comedy song. So we're gonna dive into this session. I'm gonna show you some cool things I did, some unusual things I did, and how I built this beat from scratch. Real quick before we get into the video, my name is Drew. Welcome to the channel. I'm a full-time music producer and songwriter. If you enjoy videos on music production, the music business, or Ableton Live tutorials, this is the place for you. Consider subscribing and throwing this video a like if you get anything out of it. Now let's get into the session. The first thing I want to talk about is the chop that I used and kind of how I came up with the building blocks of this idea. So I got a new cymatics pack with a bunch of vocal hooks, and I was really trying to use some of these vocal hooks as ideas to start songs with. So I found this vocal hook. And as you can hear, it's a little bit format shifted and it's pitched around. I really liked this melody and this hook of this focus word follow. I was like, that's a really cool concept. I want to take that and kind of make it into something. I found this keys loop and chopped it up and turned it into this. And together they sound like this. This chop is mostly using RC20. Some space, distorting it a good bit actually, and a little bit of wobble and magnetic to kind of give it the that fluctuation sound. If you don't have RC20, it's a definite pickup. And that's kind of the base of the song, is that keys Rhodes chop, and that kind of runs throughout the whole song. I chop it up some more, sometimes I'll pitch it down, or I have this second track with it running through vinyl, isotope vinyl. It's a free plugin set to the 1930 setting and the 33 RPM with a little bit of warp because I wanted it to sound a little gritty. So this is the way it originally sounds. And then this is the vinyl affected one. A little thinner, a little distorted. It's got some cool characteristics to it, but I kind of use that as a little dropout point to kind of thin out a section. Then the next thing was to get the beat, and it was really leaning into this like boom bappy, almost New York style beat. So this is kind of what I came up with. So there's that. I'm using, just placing in the kicks. I'm not even MIDI playing in anything. And I'm actually using a different snare for the chorus. When we get to the chorus, it's got this more like high-tuned ghost snare kind of thing. Which is pretty cool. With a shaker instead of this percussion loop. This hi-hat loop kind of has this New York swing to it. And then I'm layering that with a percussion loop under that. And it's causing it to have a little bit of a swing, which is really, really nice. So we'll play all that together one more time. You can hear that hi-hat pattern and that percussion pattern kind of working together in a cool way. And then for the chorus, I'm keeping the same hi-hat pattern, but instead of the percussion loop, I'm using a shaker. Nice soft shaker. And that part, once again, sounds like this together. And to make those ghost notes for that chorus section, I'm actually just taking this exact same snare and I'm just lowering the volume by 11 dB. So these two are the same snares. This is just at normal full volume, and then the ghost snare is just at an 11 dB drop from the original one. Just kind of gives it that groove, that feel a little bit more. And I'm using an effects one shot from one of the low-file sound packs that I'm a big fan of. And if you're interested in any of those, I have a whole video on his most recent pack you can check out right up here at the top. I'll drop a link for that. So right now, I mean, it's pretty basic as far as the building blocks. You know, we have the chops and we have the drum loop. So then those kind of together end up sounding like this. So after I got that down, I went through and added an 808 using Sublab. I started with the Deep Clean preset and then made a couple tweaks as far as the distortion and the filtering. Kind of dropped the filter a little bit more. Adding that in just kind of gives that kick a lot more weight, gives it that 808 bump that you want. Starting to feel more complete. And then really the last thing I added was this trumpet. And I don't normally do this. I play trumpet, so sometimes I'll play these things in, or I have some contact instruments that are horn sections, and I really like the way those sound, but I was really feeling this trumpet one shot. So this is what it sounds like raw. And I just added a little bit of Valhalla Vintage on there for second decay, about 25% mix. Gives it a nice space. And I just used this as my counter melody to what the keys were playing. And I just kind of used that every 4 bars to kind of end the phrase. So now our entire phrase sounds like this. Here's the trumpet part. For the chorus, I just take out the trumpet because I only want it to really live in the verses. The chorus has a lot more vocal stacks in it, so I want those to really take the forefront of that part. Everything else is pretty straightforward. One more section I do want to show you is the second half of the second verse. I did some chopping of some pieces to kind of give it some differentiation so it doesn't feel like it's just droning on the same beat kind of the whole time. So this first part is where it drops out. I got a little drum fill and kind of put it at the beginning of a section. Kind of has this like vinyl scratchy kind of drum fill. It's giving it that like old school hip hop, like, you know, you're scratching the beat and making it delay a little bit. And context, that sounds like this. And I added in a little extra kick to get it in. I love taking the kick off the 1 in some places and adding another kick to kind of get it back in. Always feels really cool. And then the rest of that section, I chopped some pieces out, kind of goes along with some of his lyrics.
Everything that I forgot, I bet the bag on you, God, the only living true God. They'll never know the places that I've walked and been with you, God. Vans full of misfits like Rashag and Scooby. I've been seeing visions. visions, homie, y'all just watching movies. Shama.
We did some chops up there with the Rhodes loop, and I kind of removed some kicks, moved some things around. I actually reversed a snare right here to kind of get us back in. I thought that was really cool. Moved the 808s around to kind of make it make sense with the new kick pattern. And took out the trumpet a little bit so it didn't get in the way. In the last section where he says, I've been seeing visions, y'all just watching movies, I wanted to kind of like a reel-to-reel, like when you go to the movie theater, it's got like a reel-to-reel kind of thing. That noise, it makes the noise of the closest thing I could find was a cassette player. And just did a couple chops leading into that, and then it kind of stops where he says, Shama.
I was just watching movies. Shama.
Kind of really emphasize the spot, do a nice cut, and then get us back into the hook. So that's the whole song. That's how I produced it. It's pretty simple. I went for a very simplistic approach with this one, where it's very much driven by that keys chop and the beat. I hope you learned something about a way to approach a different song. Hope this inspired you to do something new or try something different. And thank you so much for watching this far into the video. If you're trying to learn how to produce music like this in Ableton yourself and you just want another video, I got one right over here for you. So why don't you go check that out, and I'll see you in the next one.
I run to your love.